Hello my beautiful people. Today we're going to talk about backside tail slides on transition here on the mini ramp. This is one of my favorite tricks to do ever in bowls or anything really. Back tail slide on transition is much different than doing it on a ledge or anything where you have to ollie into it. I actually think you don't really ollie into this trick at all. There's a little bit of a scoop factor, so I'm going to get into some of the hacks and things and tips that I've used over the course of doing this trick. I've actually seen someone trying to learn how to do this on Instagram. They're posting their trials of doing it. I could tell what they were doing wrong, or I just could see some things that I would have told them and suggested them. So it's kind of what motivated me to make this video. So let's get some backside tail slide warm-ups and we'll get into all the different techniques that I use to do them. A couple things you can do before actually starting the backside tail slide on transition is just getting comfortable with backside power slides. And what you really want to do there is just making sure you have that back foot kind of over your board a little bit. So you want to have it over the edge ever so slightly. And the reason there is you're going to use that pocket spot in your board to just scoot it ever so slightly. Basically what that's going to do is kind of get your body used to the motion of doing the scoop into the backside tail slide. So it's just something you could do before actually starting it. Reason being, because like I was saying before, it's kind of, you don't really want to ollie into this trick. You really want to scoop into it. That's the big part of it. And a lot of this trick, how you actually slide it, is into your big toe. But before we get into all that, another trick that would be helpful for this is actually just backside pivot into tail. So if you can just do a backside pivot on the transition and then slowly turn it into back tail, that's really good too, because that's just going to get you comfortable with the idea. So the thing is, it's more like a two-step or three-step thing. You're going up, you're stalling, you're turning, then you're dropping, three-step, where backside tail slide's all one. But I think it does just get you comfortable with the motion. I mean, in reality, it's actually harder than it is backside tail slide, but that's just because I'm so used to doing backside tail slides. It's just one of those things where you're gonna get more comfortable with it. That way, jumping straight into back tail might seem kind of scary, and that's with a lot of skate tricks. It's more about like getting your mental kind of head in the game. So doing backside pivot, back tail will just get you comfortable with it. You can get straight into back tail. Another trick that I'll say before we get into the details of the back tail is back tail block. Back tail block is really helpful too. Although you're grabbing on tail block, obviously, like you're stalling on there and you're grabbing, it still gets you used to that motion of staying inside. So that's a big difference with doing it on transition versus ledges, is you kind of want to stay on the inside. Your board, you don't want to get it too flat. Like I feel like on ledges, normally you kind of want it straight. I think the big difference here is you kind of almost want it down, drooped. Now we'll get a little bit into just the backside tail stall before we go into actually sliding it, because it is a big difference. With the stall, the main difference is you're actually riding more straight up. So you're kind of going up and you are having to get like a little bit of ollie to get into there. With the slide, you're not doing the ollie. So that's the big difference too. You do have to ollie into the back tail stall, because I think if you don't ollie and you try to like slide into there, I mean, you can. You're probably gonna have to hit your truck first before you hit the tail, which is one way, you know, like we're saying before, you could just do the pivot tail, which is one way to kind of get comfortable with it. But what you do want to eventually start doing is actually going more at an angle. And you really want to figure out that slide part. Is normally your board is actually further down, as you can see, so it's not so straight or up. You kind of want it down. If anything, sometimes when I see people doing backside tail slides on transition really fast, they're actually like crossing it up the other way. I've done that by accident. So versus having it this way or straight, it's actually the opposite direction as where you're going to actually roll into. Now I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but let me try a few stalls and just try to see and feel what the difference between the slide and the stall is. That's a common thing that happens too, is like happens with the stall, is that you end up with your back feet too far back, as you can tell in that one, and then it's kind of hard to drop back in. So you need that front foot up here, because if you drop in with the back too far, your front foot too far back, you've probably seen it being done before, is you zing out. Go like this, and then, you know, end up slipping out. So you do want to make sure that front foot is actually much higher up on the board than you think. Back tail stall is kind of where that's hard, because you do need your foot a little bit further back to get that scoop ollie into it. And that's why I think the Tailslide sometimes is even easier. The other thing I'll say, I'm actually more up on top of it, but I have my back foot kind of pushing it. So I want to be sort of doing this thing like that. And I'm using my shoulders sort of as a cross lock. So I'm not super on top of it, sort of more on the side while crossing my body to sort of balance it out. Now, something I'm noticing too while trying just some little ones is I'm actually going pretty straight up and down, really not going too much at an angle. So almost similar to the Tailsldie. The difference here is it's more in my hips. So instead of trying to like get above it and on top of it, I'm using my hips. So it's really about that back foot pushing it. It's not all in the foot. It's really about the big toe. I'm like almost stomping out. The big toe is just holding everything. The front foot is just balancing it essentially. Now this is when that backside power slide technique will really come into place. That's really what the whole backside Tailslide is about. Like I was saying before, you can get really on top of it and that works. For me, I actually get more comfortable with it dipped down below. And a lot of that is because I'm doing that power slide technique to get into it. And the other thing is your knees are pretty bent. That's something I was thinking about as you're rolling up. Your knees are pretty bent, and as you extend them, especially your back knee, you extend that back knee out and you're pushing it. That's what allows the slide to sort of lock into place along with your shoulders being locked in, like I was saying previously. So when you're going up to it, you kind of want to think of it as like you're going up and you're just scraping, doing that power slide technique. You're into this lower position here and you're using your big toe to basically push it. So the hard part about this trick, the scary part about this trick I should say, is committing to it, because when you commit to it, it's almost hard to bail. It's one of those tricks like once you're locked in there and you really push, because I'm not on top, I'm really in the inside and I'm using my whole body to like get it to slide, it's kind of hard to kick out. That is the one thing. I would say the one way to kind of fall out of this trick is like you kind of push even harder, but then ideally you get your board out of the way, then you can, you know, do the nice butt slide out. That's one way. But I mean, trying to learn how to fall on back tails is part of the process of learning them. But if you're sliding and you're not committing to it, you're not really able to like figure it out. And that's another way that you can bail it too, is you can actually just kick your board out. So sometimes if you feel like you don't have control of it, just kick it out. And that's one way you can actually even try to learn it, is like think of everything that I was saying before as far as like getting into the Tailslide. That's what we've mainly been talking about so far, getting into it. And then like once you're in there, you can just literally kick it out from underneath you if you feel like you don't have control of it. And the more that you actually start cross-locking it, I guess that's what you would call it, kind of similar to how you cross-lock a 50-50 or something almost in a way. You have it a little bit backwards. I mean, it might not seem like it in the videos, and maybe it's not, but in my head, sometimes it's like I'm sliding, but I'm almost turning it this way, the opposite direction. And what that is doing, it's kind of allowing me to push it out. We got quite a lot of the fundamentals of the sliding. So my shoulders essentially locked up the whole time that I'm sliding. We got into all the feet technique, everything else, but having that shoulder locked up is what holds the slide a lot of the time, along with your, you know, the pinch and the lock spot, like we were saying. But as soon as you eventually drop the shoulder back down, that's when you're gonna fall out of the Tailslide in a good way. That's like basically what's gonna allow you to go in. So you don't want to try to just think you're going to go straight in. That's not going to work because you're sliding. So you're going to have to like power slide ever so slightly to drop in smoothly. All right, hopefully some of these tips help your backside Tailslides. I'm gonna leave you guys with a little skate park session that we had the other day. Consider hitting that like button if you enjoyed this video, found any helpful tips. See you on the next one. We're in Irvine, Tustin Skate Park. Pretty cool. All this red stuff everywhere, like all the transitions red. We were just saying on the way here how like a lot of times the red parks end up being really slippery. This one is not one of those parks. It's actually really good. It's not very slippery. Super fun. I'll give you a little tour. They got this bowl right here. It's pretty cool. right in the middle of the park. So like all the obstacles are basically around the bowl, which I think is pretty good, pretty smart. Only downfall to that is if your board shoots out of the bowl, then it's probably going to shoot into the street area, which is all of this. We got some good transition here too. Like, it's pretty cool how they added transition right there onto the down hubbas, so you can skate the hubbas, but you also have some training, you know, for the people that don't like to skate, especially for the people like us. End of the day, woo, don't want to do too many ollies. Good coping. So yeah, skate around a little. Check it out. A little manual pad, got some down, some ledges right here, they're really nice. I think the quarter is cool.
Quarter?
You know, if you're gonna ask the transition skater whether to hit the bank or the ledge, chances are I'm gonna say the bank all day. Nice little flat rail right here, pretty cool. All these ledges are around the bowl too, so you got the bowl in there, got all these ledges on the outside. This little A-frame kicker. Duty, shootout ledge, sorry, shootout rail, down rail. Nice long quarter pipe, which is pretty clutch. So we're getting this over here. Curb, always good to have like a curb in the skate park. It's metal, but we'll take it. Then we got Matt over here. Woo! On grind. You can actually grind right here because it's angle iron all the way around all the ledges. I'm surprised nobody's done that yet. I mean, maybe somebody has, but that's a pretty cool roll on grind. It's long though. It's probably like a 50-foot roll on grind. These kind of parks though, I will say, it's a little set up to where like only 1 or 2 people can be skating up at the same time. I feel like you need the lock, like you need some coping so that you can pop into that switch crook. Because otherwise you're kind of just pressing it. And then when you're pressing, you're just doing a power slide, so it just falls off. I think this coping is gonna be a big advantage. We'll see if my theory's right. Oh yeah, popped into it right away. To fakie? What? That's sick. I've never seen anybody do it to fakie. That's cool. I was coming over here. Check out. That's the angle though. Yeah. It's a nice long wall for that. Woo! Even when he doesn't roll away or like doesn't do it right, it looks so fun just sliding. Yeah, that's the money one. Yeah, overall super fun park. Had a lot of fun here. I actually suggest you come by here if you're like making your way to LA from San Diego, or if you're even in the LA County. So many parks are so busy. Like everyone goes to all the popular parks. There's tons of skate parks in LA that I've never been to. Probably more that I haven't been to than I have been to. Whenever I'm up here, I just enjoy going to spots. But this one is really fun. It's small, a little bit of crash demolition setup, but I really enjoyed it. Got to save some energy for the traffic back home to San Diego. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're not already. I love you. Mash. Wow. Yep, just like that. Woo! That's a good way to. That's a good way to end your weekend right there. That was the weekend ender cap. Nice 25-foot grind. Woo!